cat next to me, I'm going to spend a minute to talk about accountant nibs. Accountant nibs are nibs that I recently, a couple of years ago, rediscovered the joys of. They go from 0 to 0.5. They have a very tiny flex, and the fine is very fine, and the broadest line they make is only slightly less fine. They have a prickliness to them, which also is interesting to appreciate the sound they make and the sort of, quote, scratch they have. Any fine nib is going to be scratchy-er because it's a finer blob of metal hitting the paper. And all of this is perfectly fine unless you try to make it less scratchy by taking your emery paper and filing it down, smoothing it, fixing it, quote, fixing in quotes, because it's not fixing it in my book, it's ruining it. And I recently got a accountant nib that I think had been fixed. And it's like when you fix a cat. Yep, you know what I mean. You take all the spunk out of his life, literally and figuratively. Anyway, so I've got four accountant nibs on my desk right now. And they all are relatively similar. Unpressured, pressured, unpressured, pressured. Unpressure, pressured. Unpressure, pressured, unpressure, pressured. Those are similar. Unpressure, pressure. These are similar. This is the one that I think was fixed. Do you hear the sound difference? The fine is not as fine, I don't think. You hear that sort of... See, this has a sharp sound to it. This is sort of muffled. The sound is very different from the other ones. The other ones are crisp. This just seems raspy to me. I hate that. I don't like that sound. And I hear this sound on any pen that has been, quote, fixed. It has this sound that just doesn't work for me. Now, maybe it doesn't bother other people, but with me it does. The reason that these pens are called accountant pens are because they write so fine, and they were used by accountants to fill in the profit and loss ledger books back in the day before they had Quicken. And it would be cash in, cash out, whatever it was, however you balance books. And today, for example, if I was a millionaire, I could write down how many millions of dollars the tax cuts are making me. If I was a poor person, I wouldn't have those tax cuts. That would be in this, maybe 30 cent a week tax cut that I got, even though everything else is going through the roof, including the national debt. So let's pretend this is my ledger book, and let's pretend I have to write the national debt in that amount. I'm not going to do cents, I'll just do the rest. And I just checked the national debt, and the thousands and hundreds category was spinning so much I couldn't tell what the number is, so I'm just going to make up a number. But the trillions, billions, millions were relatively stable. The single unit in millions was going to start to switch any second now, but the first 5 digits will be fine. So let's assume that the dollar sign is implied. Let me zoom in even further if I can. So 21 trillion 316 billion 622,999,999.99 There you go, more or less. Trying to find if I was a big fat cigar smoking banker and I had my big fat cigar smoking pen on me, which is this one. It's not particularly big and fat, but it will do the trick. And I tried to fill that number in the same spot with this pen, I'd have a hard time. I could turn it upside down, but even that would be difficult. No, it looks like I can do it. 16, 622, 999, 999. But if I wrote on it right side up, 21, 316, see, it's already 22, 999, 999. It starts to, obviously can't fit. So that's the reason that these things exist. These pens, these accountant nibs are so that you can fill those numbers. And you can also be a little bit pretty. They have a little bit of flexibility to allow you to pretend it's a real pen. It's sort of like a nano pen, a nano nib, because it works on such a narrow scale, small scale. Accountant nibs are also marked accountant. I don't know if you'll be able to see this. There you go, account. And that's kind of, they're really quite nice until someone tried to make it seem smoother. And I may be able to make this pen work better by smoothing it again and sort of reshaping it so it has a point, a sharp edge to it, which it's missing now. It's like, here's the, I don't know, I should get where's my art gum? Here's my art gum. So imagine zooming in 1,000,000 degrees, and here's our little tiny pin prick of a thing, and it's circular. It's a circular ball, and the very tip of it, even if it's a small circle, the very tip of it is very, very sharp. So what someone that is, quote, fixing a pen might do for a client, oh, you think it's too scratchy? Okay, well then I'll just flatten that out and then round it down around the sides. So now you're writing on that rather than on that point, which made for a finer line, and it made for a sharper sound. But when that's been deadened by doing that to it, the line gets fatter and the sound gets fuzzier. I think I could probably, if someone gave me, 10 pens and said, and I was blindfolded, and half the pens were, quote, smoothed by a nib grinder, I mean, that's the term that is often used. Someone at a show, pen show, will grind a nib. Well, that's exactly what they do. They grind it. That's not what you do with delicate instruments. You shouldn't have to grind them at all. At least not old pens. You shouldn't have to. Anyway, if I were blindfolded and someone gave me 10 pens and half of them had been, quote, ground and half of them had been ignored, I think I could probably tell by just the sound and the way they feel on the page and the bite that they have. That's the thing. It's the bite that's missing. You know, the rest is like you're being gummed to death rather than being bitten to death. It's just not, it doesn't have that sharpness that I like. So, and this happens not just with, quote, grinding accountant nibs. It happens with any pen. Even if it's a broad pen and there's a sharpness to the way the nib is shaped, and it's been smoothed all the way around. Excuse me. It's taking the bite away. The bite is sort of half the fun. Some of the fun. Some percentage of the fun is the bite. Here's our graph, our pie chart of the fun of penning. You know, this much of writing with a pen is not caring about spelling. You can just write and you don't have to worry about spelling. I don't know if that's true or not, but anyway, this is holding the pen in your hand. This is seeing the pretty ink, blah 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 blah. But there is a wedge that in the wedge. This is all the Aural part, A-U-R-A-L. There is an oral part, O-R-A-L, too, how nice a pen tastes. And you can tell by some of the teeth marks on pens that they must have tasted pretty good. But also oral fixations, putting the pen in your mouth when you're thinking, even if you're not biting on it. There's that pleasure. And depending on, who you are, this is a bigger slice or a smaller slice of the pie. But the Aural, the A-U-R-A-L, not oral, Aural part of it has to do with, not the rectal part either. There should not be a rectal piece of the pie here for pen. Yeah, I can not, my mind is going there. Stay away from there. Get out of that gutter. Count to 10. Not rectal, not oral, aural. The part of the pen pleasure that has to do with the sound the pen makes. And the sound that you hear in your little ear, here's your ear, and that goes into your brain, will tell you things. It lets you know that sound is different from that sound. You can hear the difference. That's important, that difference. When a pen has been, you can hear it there a little bit, but if a pen is really smoothed out, or if you're using a pen that's really round, a ball, you don't hear that oral difference, and that helps you navigate. Kitty, I have to borrow this. My cat is using this stack of paper as his little pillow. Oh, he's so cute. The Aural part, it gives you information that if you're sensitive, if you're a sensitive boy like I am, you can hear it telling you things. And that's an important part of writing, is listening to your pen, literally listening to the nib. It doesn't, if you hear it actually telling you words, you need to go to the hospital. But if you are listening to the sound it makes and it allows you, it makes you aware of which direction the pen is going, all of that is important. Anyway, God damn it. Back to this accountant nib. I just bought an accountant nib all by itself from someone selling an accountant nib all by itself, and hopefully it will come in the mail today and I'll stick it on a pen. Hopefully it will not be like this one that had been... it just sounds awful to me. Can you hear the difference? It's supposed to sound like that. Crisp. You know, it's like listening to... oh, God, who... this soft thing is the Velvet Fog, Mr. Mel Torme. When you listen to him sing, there's this sort of fog around it, which I don't like. Sorry, Mel, but I don't like it. I like crispness, and your voice doesn't have it. Well, it doesn't have any kind of voice now. Kitty, there's the cat's tail. I guess it means I'm done. Oh, I know, Kitty. Well, I don't have it. You understand what I mean, don't you? You understand it. You understand it. You don't get it at all. You have no clue what I'm talking about. But some of you do. Right, Kitty? Do you understand what I'm talking about? Oh, how could you not love that kitty? Even if he bites you. Oh, I know. Oh, eat me. Oh, lick me to death. Oh, I know.